I mean, the ban itself was inevitable based on what he's done, but in terms of whether the club knew anything about it before, that's obviously the grey area. Bit strange that they obviously didn't know whether he was going to be able to play today in the press conference yesterday, but I guess it's inevitable, really.
Do you feel it's the right punishment?
No, not based on the fact that I think that he needs some help as opposed to being punished for it, but you can only go by what's happened to other players, and there's a precedent been set on that front, so I guess, as I say, the ban was inevitable.
So losing Tonali, do you think Eddie Howe should go into the transfer market in January for a striker?
I don't know whether he needs to go for a striker with losing Tonali, but the squad's stretched based on the number of players and the number of games we've got to play this season, so I think inevitably he'll need to go into the transfer market for something, whether it's a striker or a midfielder. Who knows?
And are Newcastle fans behind Tonali? Or you feel
absolutely, yeah. No, completely behind him, yeah.
Do you feel there's some responsibility from Milan's side?
It depends. We don't know the facts, do we, as to when it was established as to whether he'd been betting or not, so it's difficult to say without the facts, being honest.
Tonali, feel sorry for the guy, needs all the support, but somebody must have known this well before we signed him. And his agent says he's got a problem. Surely when he signed, there's an obligation to say what the problem is. So, annoyed that way, that'll be missing for 10 months, but it is what it is.
So do you think there's some obligation on Milan's part?
Oh, I certainly do. Yeah, I mean, who's going to pay his wages? Presumably, I don't know, 150 grand a week or whatever for 10 months? Give me some of that, please.
And do you think the punishment is, if it's...
I think it probably does. As a deterrent, you need a suitable deterrent, yeah.
So you think the punishments have been handed out to him and Ivan Toney are sending a message, strong enough message to the players?
I would hope so. But what I have to say is, I mean, we had fun 88 or whatever it was in Chinese, and all the gambling, what goes on, and on the shirts and everything. They pulled it for cigarettes a long time ago. Why not for betting? It sends the wrong message. It's contradictory, hypocritical.
So losing Tonali for 10 months, do you think Eddie Howe should go into the transfer market in January?
I don't see any option with the injuries that we're getting and the fixture list we've got. I've been betting on Neves, plays for Al Hilal, alone in January. I think all the other clubs would be complaining, but what the hell? They'd do the same.
I'm not entirely. I understand that he's got to be banned because he did something wrong, but I'm not entirely sure the 10-month ban is the right thing to do because he's going to have more time to bet on football and to have more free time to do. And his mind's going to play tricks. So I think I'm not entirely sure that's the right way to go.
What do you think would have been the right punishment?
I genuinely don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is, but I know he needs to be punished. So hopefully the club can do the right thing and he can come back a stronger player.
Do you think there's some responsibility on Milan's part?
Yes, 100%. They must have known when he signed that Tonali. I did think when he signed for £52 million, I thought, why would they sell their best player to us? So I do think they knew about it. Yeah.
And obviously losing him for 10 months, do you think Eddie Howe should go into the transfer market in January?
Yeah, there is a rumour that Ruben Neves is going to come in January, which is a good thing, I think. But I think we've got Willock coming back. We've got enough going in that position.
Back to the punishment. Do you think this and the punishment for Ivan Toney sends a strong enough message to the players?
Like I said before, I don't think the ban is relevant really because I think it gives them too much time to concentrate on betting. Whereas, in my opinion, they should concentrate on football.
To be fair, I'm absolutely gutted he's banned. There is a player in there, and I'm absolutely gutted he won't be playing with us for another 10 months, but at the end of the day, you can't bet on your own team at the end of the day. The rules are there for a reason. It hurts, but he'll get through it. Not a problem.
Do you think the punishment is sufficient?
Yeah, I do. I'm probably the only Newcastle fan that thinks that. I mean, you can't... the rules are there for a reason. You can't bet on your own team. You can't bet against your own team. You can't back your own. At the end of the day, he did back his own team, but you can't do it. You just can't do it at the end of the day.
And obviously losing him for 10 months, I think there's the opportunity to go into the transfer market.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? Obviously, we do need centre mid cover now. I mean, especially with Elliot Anderson out for the next 8 months. I mean, like you said earlier, like Ruben Neves is rumoured for the next 10 months, which I would absolutely love if he came in. But it's not the end of the world. But we'll move on. All the Newcastle fans are behind him at the end of the day, and that's all that matters. He'll come back stronger from this, I hope.
And having signed him from Milan, and there's a huge betting scandal going right through Italian football, do you think there's some responsibility on Milan for this situation?
Possibly. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know, do we? I'd like to blame Milan, and obviously I don't want to put any blame on Newcastle at this point, but possibly, yeah. I will blame Milan in this scenario, but we don't know, do we? We don't know.
And the lengthy bans for Tonali and Ivan Toney, do you think that sends a strong enough message?
Yeah, it needs to. At the end of the day, you can't bet on your own team. You can't bet within football. I mean, I feel a bit of a hypocrite. I've put a £5 acca on now, and it's not coming in. So, but you can't do it at the end of the day. It hurts. It does hurt because I do think there is a player in there, and I really hope he comes back stronger because there is a player in there. I just hope he comes back stronger. And at the end of the day, all the Newcastle fans are behind him, and that's all that matters, really.
I just think it's sort of like probably a little bit out of hand how we sort of like expect footballers to sort of, they fall into sort of bad habits, and then some might need actual help, and then to sort of ban like the other thing that's in their favour, which is football. If their life's all football, then to take football away from them, all we're doing is giving them more time to think about maybe the bad habits that they have got. So for me, to ban them, I think it's just extremely harsh, including Ivan Toney as well. It's not just about Tonali, but I think it's just gambling in general. So in order to do that to any of the footballers and take away the main passion that they love in life and give them more time to do maybe it's a bad habit of any kind, I just don't think it's probably the way that they should have been dealt with, to be honest.
So you don't think the punishments are suitable for the players?
I just think it's too severe, and if there's any other footballers out there right now that need help, then why on earth would they come out and ask for help when they know that they're going to get the thing that's their entire life? I think Paul Merson was sort of like, elaborated on it on Sky Sports, and he was sort of mentioning about, back in the day, if they had taken football away from him, he wouldn't have known where he was today. He wouldn't have known what he would have done. So that's exactly what we've done to Tonali, and then that's exactly what's happened to Ivan Toney, and I don't agree with either, to be honest.
So you don't think the punishments for Ivan Toney and Tonali send the right message to footballers?
Exactly right, yeah. I think there's got to be a way for footballers to come forward. And fair enough, there has to be some sort of punishment for them, I get that. But in order, when you look at some of past punishments, when players have pushed a referee or maybe kicked a fan into the stadium and stuff, they might have gotten like a 10-game ban or a 5-game ban, but we're talking about a whole season. Yeah, we've written off a whole season for the player, but not just the player, not just the football. It's all about the individual, giving them extra time to concentrate on bad habits. And I just, there's no doubt the guy needs extra help and he needs support, but to take away the thing that he loves, I don't agree with it personally. But
the Newcastle fans stand behind him for the 10 months?
I believe so, yeah, I think so. Obviously it was a shock to everybody. It was a shock to the club, it was a shock to the fans, but I don't see any reason why we would throw somebody that needs help under the bus and crucify him any more than what he needs to be done, really.
Yeah, you say it was a shock, but the investigation in Italy's been going on for quite a while. Do you think Milan holds some responsibility for this?
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, maybe Milan weren't aware of his, what was happening behind the scenes. Maybe it was hidden from Milan as well. So again, it goes back to the first scenario I said, where if the player can't come out and safely speak about it himself and sort of come forward and sort of say, I need help, then where does any player stand in the future as well? So I think it needs to change.
So Newcastle's a man down for the rest of the season. You think Eddie Howe should go into the transfer market in January?
I hope so. It doesn't necessarily have to be a permanent signing, but maybe just somebody on loan. I know like Neves has been linked and Phillips has been linked for game time for the Euros coming up. So I think it would be worthwhile, exploring them options and see if we can do that.
Again, like I said, the last lad there, it's just far too harsh. But again, he has to be punished. But there's no leeway, is it? You know what I mean? Who's going to volunteer? How are they going to say, I've got a problem, I've got a gambling problem, who's going to say? They're just going to get skinned.
So you don't think these punishments for Ivan Toney and for Tonali are the right way forward?
Not really. No. I think there should be more. I don't know. A little more clear. They're young lads, with a lot of money in their hands, a lot of time on their hands, And I think it's just. I don't know. It should be maybe the club should be take more responsible for them, paying them all this money. Can they control it? It's a lot of money,
And the Newcastle fans think they're going to stand behind him this season?
Oh, definitely. I think it'll be there's not a problem there. I don't know how many fans are out there who've got the same idea, same problems, But I don't think he hasn't got a problem. The club will look after him, and so will the fans. They're not rejecting him. And it's for transfer as well. They may go back into the market January. We can see get a couple of loans, to tide over. Because we've got injury problems as well now, So, it'll be all right. I think we'll be all right. We'll struggle, but we'll do all right. We're Newcastle fans, man. We always take things a hard way. We're not happy unless it's a hard way.
I think it's very harsh. I don't really think he should have been given that ban, to be honest. There's other things going on in football that, are worse than that. Look at the racism. They got 2 months for racism. Or actually, it wasn't even that. It was a few games for racism. And him and Tony have got an 8-month ban and a 10-month ban. It's just far too much. Also, I don't think that it should have applied to Newcastle while he was here. A big fine would have been sufficient, I think. But it is what it is. It's the Italian. It's a different world.
Do you think Milan holds some responsibility in this situation?
Well, that's hard to say. Some people say that they knew what they were doing and they've pulled a fast one on Newcastle, but can they prove it? If Milan say they didn't know, who's to prove otherwise? It's. Behind, looking behind the scenes, you would think maybe they did, but I wouldn't. I just think they're the club that should have got the punishment rather than Newcastle. The same with Brentford. Brentford shouldn't have been punished for Ivan Toney. His ban had nothing to do with Brentford. All his stuff being done was away from Brentford, and the same with Newcastle. So I think had they given them hefty fines, that would have sufficed. And as I tend to agree with Paul Merson as well, the gambling addiction is, it should be looked at with a bit of respect. So I think they're a bit unlucky. Also, I think the ban, it goes to the 27th of August next season, and I think it should have, even though it's 10 months, it should have stopped at the close season, so he could be allowed to play from the beginning of the season. I'm not sure when next season actually starts, mind. But I know the 27th of August is the first date he can play. But he should have really been just done for the rest of this season, and then allowed the summer and the rest of it to compete. And I don't think it should have been a worldwide ban either. So I think they could have farmed him out to possibly Saudi Arabia. I know that's controversial, but they could have farmed him out there for a couple of months to keep him playing football. And that's just unlucky.
Will the Newcastle fans be standing behind him?
Yes. I think that's already been shown in the last 2 games. Obviously, we did think he was going to be playing today, but obviously that's happened yesterday. That the ban's definite now. So yes, the Newcastle fans will stand behind him, but other people might not like that. There's reasons why. I can see why people think he's possibly a cheat, but is it really cheating? Is he match fixing? No. It's just the lad's got a problem. It's like everybody with an addiction like that, whether it be gambling or drinking, they need support. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I'm behind him, and it's hopefully. And I know, like you say, if you watch the game against Crystal Palace at the end of it, everybody was behind him after that game. So yes, I think it'd be the odd one, probably isn't, but I would say 99% of them are, judging by the noise that we've had from the ground, So yeah, I think they're definitely behind him.